All right, so Carson Wentz, the era of the Wentz and Washington Commandos run is over. He has been released by the football team, and it just feels like we kind of saw this happening. It was headed in this direction, but it's pretty wild to think that this guy was the MVP of the league, and then since that time, after 11 games or whatever it was, heading into Week 14, whatever it was a December game against the Rams. Since that time, he's gotten injured. The Eagles won a Super Bowl. They've gone to another one, both with guys that spent time backing up him in Philadelphia. He goes to Indianapolis. That was a disaster. He was the fall guy, according to Jim Irsay, and then ultimately it was Frank Reich. And then he goes to Washington, suffers an injury. Tyler Heineke comes in. Next thing you know, Carson Wentz is battling, trying to get playing time, ended off the season poorly again, and now he's out of work. It is a crazy turn of events to consider where he was and all the promise that he showed. And meanwhile, the guy that was taken ahead of him, who everybody said Carson Wentz is going to pan out better, Jared Goff's career, I would argue he's playing at an all-time level, and Carson Wentz is now looking for work. What the hell happened?
Go ahead, Q.
Oh, I'm supposed to kick off on this?
Yeah.
What happened?
Go ahead.
I think it's a number of things. I mean, one, I don't think that Carson Wentz lacks talent. I mean, that's the first thing. He got drafted where he got drafted for a reason, and because I think people saw talent in him. And at times he displayed that in his career, especially early on when he had the momentum, he had confidence, and he had an organization that believed in him. And the worst thing that could happen to him, and really within that organization, is he lost confidence in himself, whether that comes via an injury or not, or maybe it was just more mental. And someone else came in and basically took over the team he was running, took him to a Super Bowl and won it. And so everything he had done up to that point, where he probably felt like he was the biggest reason as the quarterback of a team that they were having success, was all diminished. Because you had a guy come in behind you who's not viewed as talented and not viewed as good as you, come in and be able to take this team to the pinnacle. That, I think, really set him back mentally, probably as far as what he's capable of as a player, what he's capable of as a quarterback, questioning. I think a lot of people in the locker room even question just, his ability to be that guy. Or could anyone lead that team? Could Nick Foles come in and lead that team? And so I think those early struggles really plagued him, honestly, throughout the rest of his career. And it's hard if you think about it from human nature. Who the hell is going to get over that? Like, if he stays healthy through that season, he's not only the MVP, they probably still go on and win the Super Bowl, you'd think. Yeah. I mean, at least that's the trajectory that they were on. And you'd think if Nick Foles could, Carson Wentz could, at least that season the way he was playing, his entire career looks different. And so then after that point, there's obviously some, I don't know if it's frustration or disgruntlement between Wentz and the organization and Wentz and Foles and all that. So they move on from Foles. But they draft a guy to come in and basically potentially replace Wentz in Jalen Hurts. And so then that deteriorates. So then Wentz looks for a new opportunity. And he goes to a team, the Colts, where, I mean, say what you want, he obviously performed better than Matt Ryan did.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he didn't down the stretch when they needed him to the most. But it's also a tough call for any quarterback who's going into a system in their first year, trying to get down the chemistry and a new environment, all these things around you. The opponents you're playing now, you go from an NFC team to an AFC team. All that stuff is a learning experience in your first year. He didn't play awful. He wasn't the best quarterback in the league, but he played some decent football. But the bottom line is Irsay wanted to blame him, whether it's the vaccine and all that had something to do with it. And then he goes to Washington. Now Washington's trying to make him the savior. New team, new offense, another year. I mean, it's just that's where things start to spiral out and you end up not having any success when you don't have any stability. I mean, if you asked a defensive player who jumped from 3 teams in 3 years, how would you say he's going to play? Probably not well. I mean, I think you could probably use that analogy for any organization or any corporation you work for. You jump to 3 different places in 3 years. You're probably going to have a hard time really settling in and performing at your best until you get some more time there around the people you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that about does it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. And I guess what I would add is once you start having that disagreement and being disgruntled with the organization where it started in Philly, then that bleeds into the locker room. And then now you start hearing about how the players don't have a healthy respect for the quarterback, or the relationships are strained, and then you draft a new guy, and then now the locker room is divided. Now that becomes a narrative that's connected to your name. If you recall, Carson Wentz, that was a part of the narrative when he was leaving Philly. Is he a locker room guy? Is he a guy that the players can get behind and support, and everything is staying in balance? That would probably be the only thing that I would add, whether it was for right or for wrong, whether it was fair or unfair, whether it was accurate or inaccurate. Once that becomes a storyline, that's something that he has to also, prepare himself to be able to combat. And I think when you find yourself being let go after one season, one time, you got a lot of soul searching to do. You find yourself losing your job after one season more than one time in 2 different places. I don't know how you handle that. I don't know how you bounce back from that. I don't know how you feel about that. I just don't know. Not being at the level he was at one point in time to ending up being a guy that gets let go after one season multiple times consecutively.
I mean, as a backup, though, makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Kansas City, I am jumping on Carson Wentz.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've needed a veteran backup the past couple of postseasons, and Chad Henne, who's now retired. And you'd have to say, look, this guy's got talent, and Andy Reid can maximize most quarterbacks. So there's no doubt in my mind, they should be looking long and hard at Wentz and saying, look, coming here as a backup, you'll get maybe some opportunities here and some burn time, or if Patrick gets hurt and we need you. And now you can resurrect your career in a place that you can maybe settle down for a few years, watch some and learn some good football and not be bouncing around. And, you'll be in a place that, we feel like is a good spot for you. So that would make a ton of sense as a backup. But I think if you start going and looking for places where, hey, I can just get on the field fast, it might not be the best situation for you to go to, either because they're waiting for a guy to come replace you, or, they're just trying to get through to the next year and you're just that stopgap guy. And that's not going to help you with your career moving forward or your development. It's only going to help that team just get through another year until they can find the guy to replace you.
Let me ask you guys this, not to jump on you, but let me ask you this. They're saying they're going with Sam Howell.
Okay.
They still have Taylor Heineke.
I don't think, is Heineke still under contract?
He's still on the team, I believe.
I don't know.
Or the possibility of him returning. But he finished the season as a Commander. All right. So they're saying Sam Howell, but you just brought in Eric Bieniemy. Dan Snyder is saying that you're feeling as though the whole momentum or the pendulum is swinging in the direction of Dan Snyder maybe not selling this team. They can't force him to sell it. He doesn't have to sell it. And there could be some feel-good moments that take place. Does this set the stage for them to go get Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Green Bay reportedly will not trade him to an NFC team. That's been what has been speculated out there, and so that would kind of cancel that out.
Yeah, and you've got 2 bidders in that case, and that's the Raiders and the Jets, which it seems like, the Raiders have to be willing to take that on.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Here we go. Y'all ready? Do you think that in the midst of everything that they've done in terms of how much minority outreach that they've been a part of in Washington and combating some of the things that have been accused or have been talked about, which hasn't all been race related, but some of it. Do you think that they're gearing up to try to pull off a trade with Baltimore?
I mean, it's in proximity. That would be a juicy story.
Would they be able to do it? I don't know if they would even have the room to do it. But I just know if you are a man in shambles and are on your desperation throw to try to make something work, what would be better than bringing in Aaron Rodgers to your team with Eric Bieniemy or Lamar Jackson?
Well, is there any sort of
now that's an exclusive? By the way, that's a up on. That's a two pros and a cup of Joe exclusive right there.
But is there any bad blood or ill will between Bisciotti and Dan Snyder?
They hate each other.
All right, so that's probably not going to happen.
They hate each other.
So that's probably.
I mean, more so. I would assume more so Bisciotti. That they don't like each other. But that's business is business. I'm saying if you could unload and get something in return for it, if you're Baltimore, when you can't get something done, who would be the best bidder to overpay for a situation such as this? It would be Dan Snyder. It'd be Dan Snyder. So whether you like him or not doesn't matter. I mean, that would be interesting. That would be an epic deal.
You don't think that Bisciotti would say absolutely not? Just hearing.
I mean, in theory, yes, he would say absolutely not.
Yeah, I think that a Derek Carr would make more sense if he'd even be interested.
I don't think so.
Or a Jimmy Garoppolo would make more sense.
I don't think so. I mean, I think they'll do. I mean, that's something that they'll get what they can get. But make no mistake about it. Knowing the track record of who he is and how he goes after things, that would be the one that if he could land Aaron Rodgers or someone like a Lamar Jackson, is there anyone else out there of that stature, that magnitude that would be tradable for? I can guarantee you that's what the Washington Commanders are preparing to try to do. Watch what I tell you. Could you imagine Lamar Jackson going to the
and plus with proximity, like that would be especially up there.
Two very different places, though. You just got to know that. The DMV is very different from Baltimore. Baltimore is Baltimore. Like that, and they want it that way, and everybody around them wants it that way. Baltimore is Baltimore. DMV is DMV. Two very different places.
It does feel like Ron Rivera's got to do something. And Sam Howell, I can't imagine that's the answer.
That ain't it.
Going into next year.
And with Eric Bieniemy having so much at stake for what he wants to do in his career, to go from Patrick Mahomes to Sam Howell, I just don't.
And also that division, not exactly the kindest division.
It turned out to be a pretty good division now.
You got the Eagles who almost won a Super Bowl, the Cowboys. They're
3 teams made the playoffs.
Yeah,
3 teams made the playoffs, and 1 played in the Super Bowl. Think about that, and could have won. It was competitive against an elite team in the NFL.
So if you guys quickly before we get to break, if you guys had to bet who is the starting quarterback week 1 for the Washington Commandos next year, who is it?
Aaron Rodgers.
You're going Rodgers?
Yes.
Oh man. I don't know.
I'll go Garoppolo.
Yeah, I was just saying, can I just take other?
The field?
It feels like it could be a draft pick. It feels like it could be a number of things. But
they're at 16 of the 3 or 4 that you've been talking about, Brady. None of those guys are going to be there at 16.
Richardson could be there. Anthony Richardson could be there.
That would be fun.
But why take a chance, though, on a rookie?
Well, that's the thing is I don't think you're taking a chance on that young man. I don't think there's any debate about his skill set and ability. It's about making it more consistent, like getting him to continue to grow in the position, but just getting that high level of play more consistent. I'm telling you, that dude could take the league by storm. Now, he could also be a guy that gets in a bad situation, circumstance, and never turn into the player he could have been. But he oozes with ability. Just watch him this week when he throws. He's going to have the strongest arm. He's going to go run fast as hell. and he's going to look really, really agile in everything he does. He is a specimen. I mean, if there's anyone in this draft that you look at and say he's going to be the most polarizing amongst teams, it's going to be Anthony Richardson. Because there's going to be some teams that are wowed by his physical skill set, and they want to work with that. And there's going to be some teams that are like, yeah, but when you put on the tape, it's few and far between that you see all those things come together to make it work. But I personally am a fan. I think someone's going to take the chance on him, someone in the top 20 for sure.